Welcome to Every Movie I've Ever Seen. Today, the movie that I'm going to be talking about is X-Men Apocalypse. This is the 2016 X-Men movie. One of the last X-Men movies, maybe fifth to the last. I think it went Apocalypse, Logan, Deadpool 2, Dark Phoenix, New Mutants. So yeah, fifth to last. Kind of sort of in the middle, actually, now that I think about it. It sort of fills a little trilogy with First Class, Days of Future Past, and then Apocalypse. You could even potentially look at it as a trilogy of just the young cast with First Class, Apocalypse, Dark Phoenix. But I haven't seen Dark Phoenix. I'll see Dark Phoenix eventually. But yeah, I think the movie's pretty good. It's not my favorite of the X-Men movies. It's far from the worst of the X-Men movies. Also, I've always been a fan of the X-Men franchise. And I was sad. I was sad to see it end. But this movie, it has some problems, but I feel like there's enough in this that I like to make up for the problems. Like, mainly, the cast is really good, and the cast has always been good. You know, especially the people that we kind of started off with in First Class. You know, James McAvoy, Michael Fassbender, Nicholas Hoult, and I suppose to a lesser extent Jennifer Lawrence. Her in these movies has been decreasing in value as they needlessly focus on her character more and more. Like, focusing on her character, it made sense in First Class, which, I mean, what I meant to say is it made sense in Days of Future Past, focusing on her character more specifically. Because they do kind of treat her as the catalyst to this whole thing, and Days of Future Past is a great movie, so I have no problem with it. It feels a little bit more unnecessary in Apocalypse to have her be such a strong focus. But again, from a story standpoint, it does make a little bit of sense, because after what she does in Days of Future Past, you can see how these people would start to look up to Mystique. It's also weird to think about this is 10 years after Days of Future Past, which I've never understood why the X-Men movies have these 10-year-long time jumps. You watch Dark Phoenix, and it takes place like 40 years after First Class. How does that make any sense? Because I think it's 10 years in between each movie. 10 years from First Class to Days of Future Past, another 10 years to Apocalypse, and then another 10 years to Dark Phoenix. So Dark Phoenix is 90s, I believe. Because First Class is Cuban Missile Crisis, which was 63, I believe. So then 73, 83, 93. It might be... It's 10, give or take, I believe. I don't know the specifics on... Again, I haven't seen Dark Phoenix. I don't know exactly when Dark Phoenix takes place, but I know it is the 90s. So I've never understood why they do that, because these characters are not aging 10 years. And then, of course, they introduce some of this new cast, a new Storm, Cyclops, Jean Grey, Nightcrawler. And something I've noticed about the X-Men movies is pretty much every single character in the X-Men franchise is played by at least 2 different actors, if not 3 actors. You know, you start getting into the 3 or 4 actor range when you're dealing with child versions. You know, like we see a child version of Magneto and Professor X and Wolverine. And I think there's like 4 or 5 different different actors playing Cyclops, because you know, obviously there's James Marsden, and then there's this guy, Ty Sheridan, in Apocalypse, and then there was that random Cyclops in X-Men Origins Wolverine, and then there was another Cyclops who showed up in First Class, which does not make any sense, because he would be way too old in this movie for it to be Cyclops. So wasn't there supposed to be there was a deleted scene of Storm in X-Men Origins Wolverine 2? Oh, anyway. Yeah, the movie, Quicksilver 2 has another really great Quicksilver scene that definitely ups the ante from the Days of Future Past Quicksilver scene, which was also good. So you just improved on it, made it even better. I don't understand how Dark Phoenix didn't have a Quicksilver scene, but whatever. Like I said, not everything works. Apocalypse is fine as a villain. I don't get his. I don't see his whole horseman thing. He's picking. I mean, besides Magneto, he's picking, and I guess Storm to an extent. He's picking low-level mutants as his four horsemen. I mean, the dude with wings. I mean, he just has wings. I think he's the only one to like die in this movie besides Apocalypse. He's useless. And he's not the same Angel from Last Stand, Ben Foster. He'd be too old to play him at this point, because this movie is of the 80s. And he's British in this too. That character is pointless. And then there's Psylocke, maybe. Does she have like whip powers or something? Like a energy sword or something like that? Maybe I'm just thinking of magic from New Mutants. And then Caliban is in it too. He's another character who's had two different versions, because he pops up right after that in Logan. I think that was honestly just a coincidence between the movies that they have the same mutant played by different people back to back. I guess someone wasn't sharing notes or something. And again, they made Magneto a villain again, which, it is what it is. I would have preferred that they, had him be a good guy for a movie, at least. It makes sense how they do it, the trauma of losing his family, and then Apocalypse comes in and starts twisting things. So he's just like temporarily a bad guy, and then he becomes a good guy again. And they quote X-Men 2 with the "You worried they'll sneak into the house and attack your children" or whatever. That X-Men 2 dialogue I can't think of off the top of my head, but it's a great scene in X-Men 2, and I like that they brought it back and quoted it. A little homage, I guess, to a movie that's not even really that old and exists in the same franchise. Yeah. I'm trying to think of anything else. I like the scene where I like the scene where the Apocalypse is sending up the nukes, so there'll be no more nukes. Thought that was a cool scene. The Apocalypse does have some cool lines, at least. Sets up for Dark Phoenix, because we really needed to see that storyline again. But they had to find a different way to mess it up. See, they had already messed it up one way. They needed to find a different way to mess up the Dark Phoenix storyline. And I guess that's all I have to say about X-Men Apocalypse.